Hi, Kaitlyn. Welcome to Power Women Wellness. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited we get to geek out, you guys. This is our personal trainer at Nuvitru as well, so it's a little bit special, I feel like, but outside of our normal. But first, we're just gonna go ahead and get started with just your journey, because obviously you're a fitness gal through and through, and I would love to hear, were you always like that? Were you that weird 5-year-old like I was, that, like knew what you wanted to do? So kind of what led you up to that? I'd love to just kind of hear it.
So I actually was totally opposite and grew up with hardly eating any vegetables. I drank a ton of sugared Cokes and Pepsis. I could go from like 10 to 12 a day, frozen pizzas. Parents kept the fridge stocked. We didn't know a lick about health. So what got me into it, so I definitely did not know this was the
Yeah.
direction I was going. Of course, I dabbled in a little bit of exercise. When you're a teenager, you're like, oh, let's go to the gym. We think we know what we're doing. And you get on the you get on the treadmill and that's about it. That was very short-lived. And then I'll say my dad passed when I was 19 from a heart attack. And I think that little thing kind of stuck with me. Like,
Mhm.
okay, he was young, 47. Maybe you should start taking care of yourself. So I
Yeah.
decided to go into UCF and do a degree in kinesiology. So that kind of opened
Love
the
that.
door to everything there.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Same. I mean, we grew up, everyone, just to preface as well, our backstory, we grew up in the same area, same like hometown area. And we obviously are near the same age. So we grew up in that time span where like standard American diet was the thing. So same, like I was just talking to my son about, we were in the store and we were looking at like little Debbie cakes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember my mom packed me that one and that one. And so same,
Yeah.
like we just grew up in that in that era. Yay for us.
I
And
mean,
then
I
I'm
don't blame our parents for not knowing, but at the same time,
right.
health is not new.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
this is just like a long time coming. So that was just like the switch, and it was not easy for
Yeah.
me. And it's such a journey for everybody. So
Yeah.
just a side note, so people understand, I took weight training in high school and I got a D. So like we spin this
That
around.
would
I
be
could
me.
care less about health. I cared about being with my friends. You're like really intimidated, the only girl in the gym. And it's just like, it's really cool to watch that full
Same.
circle moment.
Oh my gosh, same. I hated PE. Like and now I like can't live. Like if I am like sick and I'm like not working out, I'm like, I just need to work out so bad. Like I miss it. I love it so much. And like, yeah, I was that same girl. Like hated PE. Definitely didn't lift a weight until after I had my daughter in like 2014. That's like the year I actually started taking it seriously. But same, like so funny how that comes around. But I love that your view of wellness, you wrote that the wellness is a state of mind and should be treated like royalty. And I absolutely love that. So one of my questions was, I mean, I guess you kind of already answered it, like, was it always this way? But what are the top 3 areas in your life where you take care of your wellness? Obviously, I know number one's probably gonna be fitness.
I would like to say fitness first, but sleep is highly neglected. And again, something I kind of relearned, and you learn as you go. But fitness is up there because obviously that's the main bulk of my industry, and not just weightlifting. As the years has gone by, like over the last 10 years, weightlifting is definitely my primary, but I've gotten into hot yoga and Pilates. So anything you could think of, I'm going to try it. The only thing
Nice.
I find that I didn't enjoy was Pure Bear, however you want to say it. That could have
Oh,
totally been an instructor thing. So,
oh,
no,
I've actually
and
never done it, so I actually don't even know exactly what it is. I thought is it very similar to Pilates or no?
it is, but it's a lot more floor work. You're using like Pilates balls and 2-pound weights. And I think it's just, I'm a very high strung person. So I think
Yeah.
it's just too low key. You turn out the lights, it's in the dark, and you're trying to like follow this like little floor
Interesting.
workout. I won't
Interesting.
tell you not to try it because you might enjoy it. And I just like
Yeah.
to try things so I can tell like clientele I work with to go and do something else as well.
Yeah. 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 Same. So what is your sleep routine or must-haves to make sure that that is, good quality and quantity?
Recently, I actually did like a dopamine detox on my phone to not use it like before bed, or I
Love.
did like a 55-hour no social media because I'm trying to teach
Love
myself
that.
not to do that before bed. And it's so much easier said than done to just not scroll.
Yeah.
So that's a new part as of like a month ago. So I say no electronic before bed. I'm a reader, so that will help like tire my eyes. And of course, I don't drink caffeine after like 3 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah.
And that's like a misconception too, that I have so many people tell me, well, Kaitlyn, I can drink coffee at 10 p.m. and I sleep fine. And I'm like, okay, so I thought I did too, until you
Yeah.
dive a little bit deeper and realize it's still a stimulant and it's just going to fit a
Yeah.
full
Yeah,
routine.
yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. And two, it's especially if you don't have something like an Aura ring. A lot of the times we just go based on like our hours of like, okay, I slept for 8 hours. I drink caffeine late. Like it's fine. But then if you have something that measures it, and you might actually realize like, oh, I'm actually like not getting deep enough sleep, or I'm not getting enough REM sleep, or there's all these other aspects of sleep that we really don't know unless we have like a tracker device that's looking at it. But I've always wondered people who can still fall asleep, like what is their quality like? I'm so curious. So I've always wondered that in my eyes.
And
So
I
you
actually
have,
don't use a watch or
oh,
a ring
you don't?
like that. And I've considered it just to see like how well it is. At
Yeah.
this point, it's just like just being in tune with my body. And so many people
Yeah.
are data driven, and I don't think I have that like side of me.
Really? Oh my gosh. I would say not watch. I would absolutely say Oring. Like I am so obsessed, and it just tells me pretty much like, and I am in tune with my body, but actually the other day, it's so funny that you bring that up, is the other day I looked and I'm like, I feel like that was pretty good sleep. And then I looked, I'm like, oh, I actually didn't get enough REM. So like my readiness score isn't as ready as I thought it would be. And
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna like pivot in this. So that's so funny. I just experienced that. So I love it. If someone had to do it, I geeked out on this, I think 2 episodes ago with someone because we were talking about the Aura Ring. I'm like, it's like my favorite gadget that I've bought.
I may try it out. I can't say I haven't looked at it, and you're seeing it pop up a little bit more. And it's like
Yes.
it used to be so big, and now that it's getting a little more dainty. And I'm like, okay, I might dig into
Yes.
the numbers a little
And
bit.
and I honestly thought that kind of made me nervous of like, I don't know if I would that would bother me, but it really doesn't bother me. Like having it on, you do get used to it. So if that makes you nervous, I wouldn't. But okay, so you said fitness, sleep, and what is your third thing for wellness that you make a top priority?
Of course, that would be nourishment,
Yes.
nutrition, nourishment. I say nourishment a lot because so many personal trainers throw nutrition around in their scope of practice
Yeah.
with what they can do. So years ago, I shifted and was like, no, I'm just going to call it nourishment. There's like a fine line between it.
I love that.
You feel like crap when you put bad things in your body. And I think
Yeah.
everybody knows that. It's just they don't want to turn off that, like, stop eating these foods.
Yeah.
And they want to trick themselves.
Yeah. One thing I love about when I see your stuff on Instagram is that I love that your meals are really simple. Because I do think people either think like healthy is going to be blah, boring and bland, or it's like, oh my gosh, I'm a beginner cook and I can't make this like elaborate, like gluten-free, like lasagna with like whatever. So what are your favorite go-to meals that like really I actually wrote down nourishment, so it's funny you said that. That really hit the nourishment and then also hit like, making sure it's macro friendly and getting enough protein and just really balanced overall.
I'll go easy for you because, like you said, you see a lot of simple things. And the problem is, most people don't know how to cook. And I'm like, I can't teach you how to cook.
Yeah.
So let me teach you how to like piece this together. I wish I could teach them how to cook. I love
Yes.
cooking, but there's no time for that. So honestly, you could do like diced sweet potatoes. Good and Gather brand for Target has sweet potatoes in the frozen section. So if you can find them, I do
Yes.
that. I put lean grass-fed beef over that and make like a taco bowl. Throw some avocado. Corn's just a filler for me, some black beans, and then you have like this really
I
wholesome,
love that.
throw it all together kind of taco bowl.
That's what I literally just made last week. So funny
Yeah,
you
there
said
you
that.
go. And I'm
Yes.
like, it's simple. And I think everybody thinks because it looks like really good that it has to be a lot. But I don't care if you're throwing microwave veggies at this point, if that's your way to get vegetables in and
Yeah.
your bowl. And then you'll find time to end up cooking like more nutritious, fun meals as you go on.
Yeah. Any others that are like your weekly go-tos that are so easy?
I call them Kaitlyn's protein waffles. I did not make this up. Like I did not invent the wheel. However, I took a recipe like 10 years ago. I don't even remember where I found it. And it's cottage cheese, eggs,
Mm.
and oats. And you blend it all together and they're protein waffles. Now, if you want to get a little
Oh,
bit more clean with it, I'm on the kick of gluten-free organic oats, the best like
yeah.
cottage cheese you can find, but that's going to be based on what people can like afford and what they,
Yeah.
put their effort into and everything like that. But
Mm.
I'll probably tell you to link that because that waffle recipe has been a game changer, whether
Really?
you
I
like
know, that
cottage
sounds
cheese.
good.
And I'm not huge on cottage cheese, and I have eaten these at least 4 times a week for the last like 10 years.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to try it. The other cottage cheese thing, I think it died down a little bit, but the whipped cottage cheese is so good. And it's actually really simple. I haven't made it in a while, but it really is just like I think processing cottage cheese. I think you might have put like it depends. You can go crazy with this. You can make it like a fruity, you can make it a savory. I mean, there's so many options to it. I think I made more of like a savory. I think I might have done like a little bit of like olive oil and garlic. I wish I could remember, but it was so good. I think I just served it with like protein and veggies, like roasted veggies and I don't know, just chicken made in a pan, nothing crazy. And wow, it gives it like some people love sauces, but it gives it a flavor and it's actually so good. I grew up my cottage cheese thing growing up was cottage cheese and like chips. And it's so funny because
Okay.
everyone looks like at that if they've never tried it. And then they try it and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I'm like, yeah, that's how I grew up eating cottage cheese was like dipping potato chips in
I would
it.
never think to try that.
Well,
And
try
most
it and let me
people
know what you
not. Yeah, most people are like cottage cheese. I don't know about that. I'm like, just try it. Just give
Yeah.
it a chance.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any foods or meals that you like don't like to cook? Even if they're healthy, but you're just like, it's just not my jam.
Chicken. Um,
What?
okay, so here the only reason why is the chicken over the years, and I think most of us can realize like it's too big, it's gross, it's filled with steroids and hormones. So if I'm gonna eat chicken, it's usually gonna be like chicken thighs that I can do in like a crock pot or something, a little bit more flavorful.
Interesting.
Or when I have meals shipped in locally from people who make meals healthy, I'll just order chicken meals.
Interesting. So you
Chicken,
don't cook chicken like breast?
not anymore. Which is crazy to think. It's
Wow.
night and day because we used to be like 85% chicken, especially in the beginning of my like fitness routine and
Yeah.
everything. And now we're 90% beef.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
that would scare a lot of people. So I'm like, please get
Yeah.
out of this whole like beef is bad for you. And
Yeah.
of course, it's what kinds of beef are you getting?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
definitely important.
For sure. I totally get what you're saying though. I will say one brand that I love is maybe there's more to it, but Mary's. I used to only see them during Thanksgiving when they would bring in like turkeys and stuff from Whole Foods, but now they have chicken and they're slow growth chicken. So they're not like scary big. I feel like they're absolutely like very normal sized and they're not like extra slimy. I don't know. There's something about it. And they have been my favorite place to buy chicken breasts. And sometimes like, well, no, I'll still buy it, but like I get really sad when they aren't in the store and I'm like, this is the best. So that is like my recommendation. But I feel like it is kind of harder to find. I feel like I've only seen them at Whole Foods. And then a couple people, at least here in Austin, said, oh, we found them at HEB, which is like our Texas big store. But if you ever find them, I would be so curious if you're like, oh, these actually don't feel so
Yeah, I'm
scary.
hoping I can find them in my area because I'm not saying there's not chicken out there. I'm just like, it's just so
Most is bad.
weird.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like touching it and the little
Yeah.
stuff on it. I'm like, okay, which again is wild because that's what I used to love. So now I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you buy chicken pre-cooked?
very rarely. If it's
Okay.
like a rotisserie or something along those lines, but rare only because you can't find, at least here, and you might
Yeah.
understand that. I think you have a
Totally.
lot more access in Texas. And that's why occasionally I'll go in and out of joining like our local co-op because they do have great resources. You're just going to pay for
Yeah.
chicken. It's a lot.
Pricey. Yeah, it's pricey. Oh, for sure. That is one thing I do not miss. And when I have to go home, I am set and I'm ready to leave. But it's because like it's so where we are, there's not much. And then obviously the closest big city is Orlando. And I just feel like because Orlando is such a melting pot, there's just too much chain and there's still not a lot of that like local foods. And maybe it's changed over the years, but I still feel like last time we visited a couple years ago, it was still pretty heavy in chains. And I'm like, ugh, like, your typical like Applebee's and Chili's and just,
I'm
the
hoping we'll get there.
yeah,
Hopeful.
yeah. Love that. Okay. And so I know we did testing together, and I know you've actually found some things that were really surprising to you. So I'd love to chat more about that. Because, I love that you said, like, I'm healthy and I'm doing all these things in wellness and fitness. And I think that sharing your experience really shows that like there's still such a big benefit of testing. And it's still why I do testing, even though I'm like on good foods and supplements and do all the same things too. But sometimes you just don't know what's going on internally until you look.
That's where the numbers matter. So I want to back that up from earlier. Data matters.
Yes. So yeah, tell me more about that. So like if you're comfortable sharing like things that you found out about yourself and things that you did to like improve that.
So I did the Dutch test with you, and I wanted to know what my cortisol and a couple other hormones look like. And then we also did the micronutrient panel for an array of vitamins and minerals, which I know is not a very common test unless you ask for it. So I figured let's go for tests that are not really common so we can kind of deep dive because I didn't have any symptoms. I
Yeah.
felt great, didn't feel stressed or anything like that. And by the data, you said my cortisol was like at the roof at 4:30 in the morning when I'm waking, and then it's like tapped out, which was shocking to me because like I own my own business. I love what I'm doing. And you've said it before, people think anxiety is stress, and I'm not like a
Yeah.
societal person. So you're just going through like everything's fine. So that's
Yeah.
when like testing really should come in. And then with the vitamins and minerals, that's where I was very shocked, had like a little like meltdown when you told me after we went over it, because I was basically malnourished in half of them because they weren't getting into the mitochondria. And I think people don't realize just because they're like, Kaitlyn, you eat healthy. Just because
Yeah.
I'm intaking the food does not mean it's absorbing correctly. And that's
Yeah.
you had to come in and we're like, let's no caffeine, which was the craziest, and all these other little things that
Don't
we
worry, you're not alone. I feel like that's usually the
tried.
craziest.
That's the craziest one for most people. I should do testing again because I went through the 4 months. I was heavily on 15 to 20 supplements. I had
Yeah.
my little old lady pack, every Sunday putting them in. And I'm taking, supplements in the morning before I eat in the afternoon. And it can be tricky, but you start to
Yeah.
like, if I'm going to invest in my health and I really did this blood work, why am I not going to follow through with the practices that Lahana wants me to put into place?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I know. And then with nutrients too, there's like supply and demand as well. So even if, you're eating enough of what you think is enough, maybe your body needs more because maybe there's more demand and you like lift and you work out and stuff. So you naturally will have like a higher demand just because in a good way, because you're demanding more of it in a good way, positive way. But sometimes it's like, oh, I need to go a little bit more above and beyond than like what I normally thought. So I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. And then the absorption side. And then, yes, head on with like the stress. Like, I definitely think so many people view stress and like the typical anxiety. I'm about to be in a panic attack. I can't breathe. My heart's racing. And that's just not the case. So, for like me, that's usually not the case. So, my sign of like being stressed is actually just being nauseous. And so, it's like that gut brain connection. But that's like when I am just like, oh, I just feel so nauseous. And no way, it's most people would be like, oh, I'm probably coming out with a stomach bug or something. No, that is like my body's signal of being like, I'm really stressed out right now. And that's different for everyone. Some people it's migraines. And you might just be like, oh, I'm the person that deals with migraines. That's just me. That's just who I am. When it's like, oh no, actually that could be a sign that you're stressed. So I think it's so interesting to see how everyone's bodies work. And yeah, I think testing can sometimes help us, take that guesswork out of it and be like, okay, yeah, what's going on with me? And
And I
both of those
still
things I
don't,
do recommend yearly. The Dutch and the micro. I love that. I love those.
the Dutch, I think, is probably what I'd put at the top for most people, only because I feel like most people I come in contact with are very stressed people.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, especially the people that are normally very stressed, they're slightly addicted to it and they don't know it, but like that's their normal. So their normal is normal. So it's just like, I'm not stressed, but I'm like, but you're like trending on stress. Like you run on it. And so it's like, I don't even know if you know how it feels to be like down below and just relax. You might be like, what is this? So I love that. Now going more towards fitness, what do you feel like are the biggest things you hear from clients that struggle with lifting weights? And like, what would you say to them? Like people that have trouble like being consistent with it or making it a priority. What would you say to them?
I think everyone thinks they have to just go from 1 to 100 very fast. And especially with the probably our parents' age between 50 and 60, weightlifting was not for them. So they're still, you would think the mindset of being bulky and women looking manly and all that is out the door, but it's still not. It very much sits in the back of a lot of people's head, especially.
Wow.
I don't think our age around, 20, 30s, 40s, they're understanding it. Those people are working out. But when you get into kind of the older
I
generation,
can see that.
and most of them are having an osteopenia, and they're like,
Yeah.
well, my doctor's like, I have to lift weights. I'm like, yeah, people have been telling you for years. So
Yeah.
that's still a misconception, is like that manly look, that bulky look, which that comes with so much more, and testosterone and all these things at
Yes.
play. I hope to one day say that there's nobody out here like, well, I'll look manly, but that's never going to disappear.
Maybe. I do agree. Like, I think there are things in the diet and fitness world really held on to the older generation. And I would say potentially even 40s still, because they would be born in the 80s. And I would still say like the 70s and 80s was and even 90s. I think we were probably too young to fully grasp that, even though I do think there's still subconscious things that we've seen and watched our parents kind of go through. But I do think eventually, and maybe it's when like my kids' generation is like older adults, like when they're in their 40s and 50s, and everyone else has kind of like died out that, like was born in like the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever. And maybe that's when we'll start seeing that flip switch, and maybe that'll be gone one day. I think so. I think so.
Well, after you weed it out a little bit, not in a negative way. Well, and then you have the point of like, you work out in front of your kids see that.
Yes.
Our generation is more common to be like, this is important. This should not be a non-negotiable.
Yes.
And that's probably my favorite part, is seeing all these little kids follow their parents. And I don't have children, but I'm like 100%, I don't care what anybody says, I am going to teach that like day one when they start,
Yes.
soaking all that in.
100%. And you like, I know when you train people and that have like babies, like they come with their mom, right?
They do. Now, I don't go out there and like, hey, everybody bring their baby and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But people who have been with me since out of my garage where I started and then moving into storefront, their season has
Yeah.
changed, and they're all having children. And if that's what you have to do, it's kind of a fun mix up too. And it really shows. For one, they appreciate it. But then we're getting the little kid in a setting that's going to change like the rest of their life, give or take, if they, actually follow through with it.
Oh, I love that. Is there anything else that you feel like you hear clients being worried about when they start their fitness journey that you want to debunk?
The only other one that comes to mind is more related to food, with not eating enough.
Ew, let's
So
talk
like,
about that.
and that's going to be mostly, so without this sounding bad, a lot of men think they know more about fitness and what they're doing. And then women, like, they are actually kind of a lot better at it. I feel like they soak it up a lot more. They like
Yeah.
listen to you. But the hardest part with that is they're still wanting to be like, Kaitlyn, I don't want to eat 2,200 calories, or
Yeah. I'm so scared.
a lot of that's the food part. That's why it's hard, because I'm so much more than like just the fitness. And if
Yeah.
you would have asked me when I first started, it would have only been fitness. And now,
Yeah.
like, fitness is such a small piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just a
I agree.
yeah. So a
Yeah.
misconception around like, well, if I eat too much, I just don't want anybody on a 1,200 calorie diet. And I know you're
Yeah.
that way too, and I hate to see it. And that again, maybe that will disappear in time as well.
Yeah. Give us, like, what would you tell someone that does that? Because sometimes I think people would probably, Lahana, I hear you say it so many times that like I just can't even with you anymore. So coming from a different mouth, what would you tell them in like simplistic terms of why it's important not to do that, to make sure that they're fueling themselves, especially if they're weight training?
I know it's so silly to use the like concept of like a car or a
Yeah.
planet, like you have to feed it all the good things for like best optimization. So if I like break it down and have a comparison, I think it like relates better to them.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like off the top of my head I can think of. It most of the time it's just long term of ending up trusting me and being like, holy
Agreed.
Kaitlyn, it's been a year and I'm ready to listen to you. And I was like, you'd come back. I knew you would listen and you'd like
Love that.
advice, but I can't change what somebody has like deep rooted in them until they're
Yeah.
ready to push it out. And that's with anything, like
So true.
help. I know that was
So
like
true.
around the question
No,
there.
no, no, no. It's so true though. It is. And sometimes too, the tricky part is that when you get people like, trying to eat more and more, is sometimes there's a little bit of weight gain that happens before you see the weight loss. And that's like a very normal transition. I feel like not always, but like I do see people, but the moment that they start eating more and gaining weight, it freaks them out because they do have this like deep seated, like, this is true. I told you this was going to happen. And it's like, just keep going. Like there's just, and this is with anything. Like I see this sometimes when you start working on gut health and someone has acne, sometimes they'll flare up in acne before they get fully better. So sometimes things, that cliche saying of sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, but it's so true. And you just kind of have to pull through that other side. And then because it's such a shift for your body to be so undernourished and like your metabolism sucks. And then obviously when you're starting to like rev it up, it takes a little transition. I mean, do you see that too? I feel like I see that not all the time, but sometimes. And I know they want to like lean in and be like, I told you this is going to happen.
Well,
Keep
the
going.
most recent story I have is this one woman's been with me for about a little over a year. She's around our age. She grew up in a Cuban household where, I say Cuban because a lot of people understand they're very strict on weight. And it's like a never ending cycle for multiple generations of, you could look really skinny and they're still like, what are you eating? What are you doing? So she has,
Mm.
30 years of this to work off. Well, she's lost 50 pounds recently. And it's like a half a pound to a pound weekly because that's how it goes. And when she first started with me, before she started, she was like, Kaitlyn, I want to lose 75 pounds. But I want to lose it in like 6 months. I'm very honest. And I was like, I can't work with you. That's really a lot. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but I'm trying to see good muscle growth with like a steady fat loss, and kind of explain the process to her. To make this short, 2 weeks ago, she was like, Kaitlyn, I haven't moved the scale since September. That's a good amount of time for not even a half a pound or a pound to budge. So she wanted to drop her calories to like 1,200 from like 15 or 16. And I was like, okay, first of all, a lot of people don't understand you have to do it steadily. This cannot happen overnight. Let's look at something else. I'm going to trust you, but can you track your food for me for a week? And then we found out she wasn't tracking Sunday, which was like a fun day for her. She tracked
Mm.
that Sunday. The next week, she didn't have that day. She was already losing weight.
Oh
So
my gosh.
it's usually something like so small that we need to look in, because we all
Yeah.
think we're better than we are. But
Yeah,
there's things I need to work on. I know you could say that
for
probably.
sure.
It's just, she was like, wow, I'm so happy. I'm like, good, stay on your 1,500. Your muscles are hungry and we're getting you to where
Yeah.
you need to be. And she's probably one of the biggest cases where it's going to take a lot of time to pull the diet culture out.
Yeah.
And her mother's come around and she goes, if Kaitlyn said it, I trust her now. So now they have like a really
Oh, yeah.
good relationship going, and it's kind of spinning on the mom too.
Yeah, yeah, it's really essential to have that for sure. And yeah, like I said, if it feels that way of just like something, I always think of the body is speaking to you. So, I love that you did that because I have found after working with so many people, it's not that I don't trust people and what they say, but after doing this for almost a decade, there's usually things that people either don't think to say or to leave out. And that's why sometimes, especially when it comes to like what I've seen with like the GLP-1 drugs and pushing and stuff like that with doctors, is like, but they're doing everything they can. So this is this is their last resort. And I'm like, well, when you say they're doing everything they can, like what is that? And they're like, they're eating healthy and exercising. I'm like, but what is that? Like, let's even go a little bit deeper because even that is pretty broad. And a lot of them aren't doing the like very intensive day to day, we're looking into your life, we're getting all the details. And that's where I have found, and I've done that. A lot of women come to us and like, I'm eating pretty healthy and I'm working out 6 days a week. And that's like on the intro call. I'm like, okay, we'll take a little look, a full assessment, like once you get in, well, then we do it. And I'm like, yeah, you're not eating as healthy as you thought you were, but like again, you had the knowledge, so that's one thing. And two, I'm like, actually, I think you're working out too much. You don't need to be working out 2 hours a day for 6 days a week, so I don't want to say that I don't trust people, but I very am hesitant taking at face value of what people tell me for that reason of like, I'm eating, I'm doing the right things. And here you see like, oh, you're not looking at Sunday, which is why I think it's really important to have like that professional that's looking at it from a bigger point of view because you only know what you know. And that's why we're here to kind of pick through like, are you
Pick it
actually
all
doing it?
apart. Pick all the pieces of the pie.
Exactly. So it's so funny. It's when I every like dietitian that I've hired, I kind of let them know that. And at first, when they tell me, like they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah." And then like every time that once they're have been working with us for at least like 6 months, they'll always come back and say, "Oh, I see what you're saying about that." I'm like, "Yeah." It's
You
just
came
something you
around.
learn.
We knew you would come around.
I was like, it's something like after working with people for so long, you'll start to realize. Now getting a little bit out of wellness, I know that you're a big reader, as you mentioned. So do you have any favorite books that you love? And this could be like books you read in the past or things you're currently reading for business, wellness. I mean, anything kind of goes.
So in the morning, I only read nonfiction. So I'm very like educational and I try to rotate
Yeah.
through it. Like currently I'm reading a networking one because I'm going to a networking event in the next couple weeks. So I'm like,
Ooh,
okay, like see if you can take just one piece of information out of it. No specific authors on those. I just kind of people recommend on, like Pinterest or something, or I'll just go on an Amazon binger and look things up that I'm looking for. And then in the evening, I'll do, the sexy ones, or like
love.
I really like Frida McFadden, and I could be butchering her name.
Ooh.
She has Housemaid one and
I
two.
have those. I haven't read those yet, but I have them.
We'll get through those fast. So that's a good like starter for her. And I never knew I would be into like a psycho thriller. I thought I would only like the sexy books. And it's like, no, no, no. Rotate these books out. You don't always want sexy.
Yes.
Some people want sexy all the time. I want a little bit of everything.
I want a little bit of everything. And I feel like the book that actually got me out of that is Verity by Colleen Hoover.
Oh, one of my
That was like a thriller in a sense, or there was mystery. You're kind of sitting on the edge of your seat, but there was some good sex scenes too. It was like a really great combination. And that book made me think because I only read like more romance smutty books. And then I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. And so that's when I started reading like, oh yeah, I'll go back and forth between like mystery, thriller, and like romance. But when there's a book that has a combo, I mean, that's lethal.
That was my first one that got me into kind of the going into the psycho thriller, and then Frida's Housemaids. And now I
Ooh.
have quite a few friends who read, so we're constantly like passing books along. And I really wish I could get on the Kindle, but there's something about me having a book, stamping it, and one day I'm gonna have that bookshelf with the ladder that slides across it. So
I
um
love that. I agree. And I do it because I want something that my eyes are not on a screen because I'm on a
exactly.
screen constantly. I have the Kindle for like my iPad if I ever like really need to go down that route, or I have Kindle Unlimited. So sometimes I will, but I do love books. I need to get better though. So I tend to, I mean, there's a local bookstore that just opened yesterday, and Melanie Harlow have always been what she never, it always hits. Her books always hit.
100%.
And she actually was there yesterday at the book signing
Oh
at
my
this local
goodness.
bookstore. And I'm like, fangirling. I'm like, I love your books. And I was like, I'm literally listening to an Audible right now. I showed her. So I was like, I think that's so funny. So I got some books signed. So obviously I have those books that I'll keep. I have some by like Allie Hazelwood that's signed, but I'm like, I tend to like just donate them to like half price, or not donate, but like I'll sell them to like half price books. I don't get much money. But I don't know, I'm a little jealous that like I guess you hold on to all them and then like you're just gonna have like a library, I guess, one day.
Which
Now
I
I'm
know
kind of
sounds
regretting.
silly because a lot of people are like, Kaitlyn, you could buy so many books for cheaper, like $1 or two, and I'm paying like $20. But
I do the
just
same.
I think the act of holding the book is what's a big part of me too. And like you said about the
Yeah.
screen time,
Yeah.
I don't want to hold that, but I have to consider when I'm traveling if I'm taking a
Yes.
little while. So they're like, get yourself a screen. You can't pack 10 books with you, but
I'll
I'll
put
budget
two.
for books. And my husband's like,
Yeah.
there shouldn't be a budget for books because he knows like my goal is
Yeah.
50 this year. Uh,
Mine's 52. One a
oh,
week.
all right, maybe I'll raise it to 52. But like last
Yes.
month I read like 6, and then maybe this month it kind of comes, ebbs and flows there. I might only read like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do for fun,
I know. Me too. Me too. I know. I'm like the boring. the boring friend that's just like, let me, you can go ski. I'm gonna sit by the fire and read a book. Or you
Yes.
can go to the beach, but I'm just gonna be reading a book on the beach. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah, don't invite me out on a Friday night. I have probably plans just to chill out and relax.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so funny. No, I will pack a couple books when traveling. But like I said, the iPad, I'm always bringing my iPad anyways. So in case I'm like, oh, I finished those 2 books and I need more, I do have the Kindle for that. So that's like my meet in the middle ground.
I'll get there. I'll get there.
But I love that. Amazing. So, but any business books that, I don't know, have stood out to you at all, or nonfiction ones that have stood out to you of like, wow, this was really amazing.
Goodness, sometimes I'm gonna have to like pull my list up here because it's
Yeah.
crazy, but they'll be like, "Look, who's the author?" I'm like, I don't know. I forgot.
So one thing I started doing this year, I made a Notion. I use Notion for like my personal stuff, my organization, and I have like a book list. And so I have all them organized of like ones that I'm like ready to start reading. Like I either have the book or like I don't know, I just want to read it or I like see it. And then I have the ones I'm listening to or reading. And then I have ones I completed. So that's how I kind of keep track of like what am I reading and listening to, and I rate them. So I know some people use like Goodreads, but I don't know, that's just my own system.
Oh, that's like an
Um,
app that you can do this with.
yeah, so Notion, and obviously people use
Oh,
Notion for everything, like budgeting. I mean, it's just an organization app.
okay.
But I have like a reading list every year. So I keep like last year's and the year before. So that way I can be like, did I read this book? Because sometimes, I just read them so fast. Yeah, it just gets confusing. And then I'll rate them of like, okay, 5 stars, this was amazing. Or like, I actually didn't like this one. Anyway, so that's what I do to like keep track of
That's
like
very
what
type A, which I thought I was. But mine's like in a 2025,
notes.
2024 in a note list, and I'll put like reading. It's very rare that I won't pick up a book and finish it. There's only one in particular, like the Dad Sing or something. I think I read the first 2 pages and I was like, I'm out.
Okay, I couldn't get into that one either, but I did watch the movie and I did like the movie, but I couldn't get into that one. So I was like, why is everyone
Oh,
loving
they
this
were
one right
raving.
now?
And my sister said, just try. And I'm like, I'd
Yeah.
rather read something else. So one that my most recent one, which is a very old book over 25 years and they update it, is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Classic.
And
Classic.
I think anybody, I don't care how much money they have, could take something away from that book because it teaches us, same with like fitness and wellness. We were living in an industrial world and we're not anymore. So
Yeah.
that really stuck with me.
Love
And
that.
then Rob Dial wrote a book and he's just a podcaster, motivational speaker, kind of online businesses. So I'll listen to podcasts and stuff too, but there's
Yeah.
that I haven't really loved.
Yeah.
And I think it's just
Yeah.
because I'm good at like putting them in a cart and then being like, go find the one you really want to buy and then kind of
Yeah,
buy the
for
next.
sure. Any podcasts that like you religiously listen to that love, especially business wise?
See, that's crazy that I can't remember
I'm
yours.
the same way though, to be honest. Like I have to go through. And I also like, I think we'll cycle through things. So some podcasts I'll listen to for a while, then I'll take like a long break on and I'll switch it up. And so sometimes I just don't have anything top of mind.
I don't really listen to anything that's not educational when it comes to podcasts.
Me too.
Like people like Call Her Daddy and all that. And I do think it's funny, but I'm like, woo, like I just would rather educational stuff. And most of it's going to be business or wellness. You might be familiar with the Diary of a CEO. He's from the UK and he brings on an assortment of different fields and they're like 2 hours long. So I split them up.
Wow.
But anything you could think of, he covers. And then the mindset mentor is Rob Dial. Those are
Okay.
small little, I get ready and I'm listening to something
I
motivational.
love that.
So I
I
go from
love
a
that.
book to get ready with a podcast. And it sounds like so much. And it's not like this all the time, but I eat this stuff up. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, 100%. Same. I go through cycles where sometimes it's just too much and I need to take a break, but I love getting into that. It just gets you into a really good mindset. The only Call Her Daddy podcasts I've listened to are ones like with celebs that like I'm really curious about. So I listened to like the Megan Fox one when
same.
she was on because I'm always so interested. I don't know why. I just think she's interesting. Actually, that podcast made me view her differently, like in a good way. Um, and I was really impressed with it. So there's sometimes I'll like, oh, I really like that celebrity. Let me listen to it, but I don't listen to it religiously.
I'd say that one and Simone, the skater or gymnast. No,
Mm.
the gymnast.
Okay.
I've listened to hers as well on Call Her Daddy, but her and Megan Fox were probably the only two. Yeah, Megan
Yeah.
Fox is very very interesting and intriguing. So that was an
Yes.
opener.
Yes, yes, yes. I know. And that's why after I listened to it, I'm like, I feel like not that I judged her, but I mean, some of the stuff that they would do for like movie premieres or whatever, it'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a little questionable. And now I just feel like, yeah, I just view her differently, in a good way. So I actually really like that one.
And we all
So
judge people like
same.
that. And like
Yeah.
I'm not a diehard celebrity fan though either. I don't like really follow that many. I'm never
Mm.
gonna like run up to them.
Oh, me either. Me
Yeah,
either. Because
not me.
yeah, but I do love me some good celeb stuff. Like right now, I'm so into the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Like that whole, cause I loved this. It Ends with Us. I loved it when it came out. I was excited about the movie, and then all this drama. And now I'm like, I have to understand what actually happened. And so I'm kind of following very loosely of like what other people are saying about it. And I don't think the lawsuit is happening until like next year, but it's very interesting.
Maybe you need
I
to
love seeing
recap
behind the
that.
scenes.
Recap that on your story because I'm like, if I go on that bunny hole, I'm never gonna come out of it. So recap.
Exactly. I'm in the bunny hole, but yes, don't go down if you don't have to. Well, it was so fun hanging out with you and talking all things wellness and business and not business. So I would love for you to share where can people find you, website, social media. I know that you have also shared a 6-week strength training workout, which we'll link up. So yeah, let us know where we can find you.
Thank you for having me. It definitely was a long time coming. I think at least a year since we finally were
Yes.
decided to do this. The best way to reach me or find me is at fitwithkaitlyn.com. There you can find information on our gym located in Merritt Island, online functional fitness coaching, anything from there. And like you just said, Lahana, I have a 6 weeks gains program. It's basically foundations of strength. I absolutely love it. I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's a good start for somebody. And I usually run that one as a deal. And if you have any questions, you can always email me. And I know you'll probably drop the links in there as well.
Perfect. Well, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you.